Hello, my name is Reverend Andy Lewis, and I'm the Director of the Center for Missional Outreach in the North Texas Conference. I'm really excited about this opportunity to connect with you today and to tell you a little bit about what the CMO does and how we can help your local church in your ministry with your neighbors. In a few moments in the training, you'll also hear from Reverend Andrew Fiser, who is an Associate Director for the CMO. The mission of the Center for Missional Outreach is to help local churches make disciples through ministry with their neighbors, particularly the poor and the marginalized. For us, this mission implies a few important ideas. First, the CMO's main role is to help local churches. Second, the CMO aims to be a catalyst for creativity, for starting and strengthening ministry in your local church. The CMO does this by working with local church leaders to inspire you with fresh and compelling ideas for ministry, to connect you with people who can be resources and partners with you in your work, and to equip you for ministry with knowledge, with seed grants that can begin new initiatives. And finally, this mission means for us that we're most excited about getting behind ministry with your neighbors, as opposed to ministry to or for neighbors. Ministry with means ministry that builds long-term relationships with neighbors, ministry that empowers neighbors, and ministry that lifts up the unique gifts and strengths and dreams of neighbors. So, in today's training, we hope to lift up a handful of ways the CMO can partner with you and help you make your ministry dreams come true for 2021.
Hi, my name is Andrew Fiser, and I am the Associate Director for the Center for Missional Outreach here at the North Texas Conference. Today, we'd like to share with you a little of what we have seen from our churches here in the North Texas Conference that have found unique ways to respond to the needs of their community in a time of social distancing, and when it's difficult to know how best to serve our neighbors without reinventing the wheel and without duplicating efforts that other organizations are doing. So we'd like to highlight a few church efforts that we think provide a really great model for ways to build relationships with other organizations in our local communities, and be it really effective in the way that we not only put a Band-Aid on the needs of people in this time of COVID-19 and pandemic of racial violence and where economic inequality have really come to the fore, but also think about ways to build relationships with people, even though physical distancing and safety concerns are a priority for us. Oaklawn United Methodist Church here in Dallas has found a way to continue its winter sheltering of their homeless neighbors, even though it's been difficult to continue some of their efforts with COVID-19 restrictions. They had already had partnerships and relationships around the city with other homeless agencies and the city of Dallas. But once COVID-19 hit, they were able to use those relationships to learn how best to serve those homeless neighbors that they had developed relationships with, and those which maybe new, those which may be subject to evictions and now out on the street. So they developed a joint initiative between the Salvation Army, Austin Street Shelter, The Bridge, Oaklawn UMC, and Our Calling, as well as the City of Dallas Homeless Solutions Department. And they provide hotel rooms on winter nights when the temperature drops below 36 degrees and it becomes very dangerous for homeless brothers and sisters to sleep outdoors. So far this winter, the effort has operated with what will be many nights by the time you see this video, providing shelter to over 270 homeless individuals each night with a hot dinner and breakfast. The initial goal, funded in part by a matching grant offered by the North Texas Conference Center for Missional Outreach was to raise $100,000, which by now is getting nearing to be used up. Reverend Rachel Bachman, senior pastor of Oak Lawn UMC, said that she's excited to surpass this milestone because the demand for shelter is going to be exceedingly great this winter, not only because of COVID, but because of extended cold temperatures. The city of Dallas has grossly been under-equipped to serve the population of under-sheltered people in our city, said Bachman. Even after taking in as many as they could, there were at least 80 people who were not able to be sheltered as they started this process. So if you are able to provide some funding and raise some funds for their effort, I know that will be welcome. And you can find information about Oak Lawn UMC later today. Calvary United Methodist in Paris, Texas, was able to go about their work early in the pandemic of encouraging essential workers. With the help of a small grant from the Center for Missional Outreach, they had handwritten cards that were created by children and other adults with the church, and able to go and support with just a $10 gift card local businesses in the Paris community, supporting their local economy, and then give those cards and gift certificates to folks who work at the Paris Regional Medical Center and other places around the community where essential workers have had to keep working, often in dangerous conditions throughout this COVID pandemic. And that's been a great way to support police, fire department officials, and emergency medical services and child care centers. Henrietta UMC and its work with the Clay County Food Bank has really kind of been taken to the next level. The First United Methodist Church in Henrietta has a long-standing relationship with the Clay County Outreach Food Pantry. And through this partnership, they've been able to be in ministry with those who live below the poverty line. Since March of 2020, they've seen a huge increase in the number of folks who show up for Friday morning pantry distributions. In 2019, they had about 70 families each Friday, and since 2020 in March, they serve about 80 families and individuals, and that increased to about 138 over the summer. They learned as a church that the outreach center's location for the food pantry was no longer going to be viable. It was a building that was falling apart, and so they wanted to continue their relationship by helping locate another facility and help outfit it to be able to serve the needs of neighbors. And so we were able to provide a matching grant to help congregation members have some skin in the game and raise money to support their local ministry and food bank. And thankfully, they have moved locations, and the congregation feels good about being able to support their local food bank in ways that are safe, where they can volunteer together in safe, distanced ways. If you would like some ideas or have ideas yourself about ways that you can partner in your local community and strengthen those partnerships, we'd love to be able to talk with you here in the near future. You can find our information here on this screen.
During this time, in which so many of us have remained physically distant in order to protect lives and keep people safe, we have learned that one important way that you can make a difference and be in ministry with your neighbors is through legislative advocacy. I know that for some people, the church getting involved in politics seems like a big no-no. And especially in this season in which our nation is so fragmented and divided along party lines, I understand the concern. And to be clear, I'm not suggesting that your church align itself with one particular party over another. I am suggesting that the bills that are passed by our state and national legislatures have a tremendous impact on matters that are deeply important to us as people of faith, like how poor families put food on their table, or how many dollars are invested per student in our public schools, or what opportunities for safe haven are afforded to refugees who are fleeing persecution, often political persecution and religious persecution. And so I would say it makes sense, and even more than that, we are compelled as followers of Jesus Christ to let our legislators know what matters to us, what matters to our neighbors, and what we value. Back in 2019, the General Board of Church and Society, with the help of a grant and partnership from the CMO, started something called the Advocates for Justice. That summer, a group of clergy and laity received training on community organizing and legislative advocacy. They also discerned a focus on racial equity in public education, in immigration policy, and in maternal health outcomes. Since then, the Board of Church and Society, which is located just steps away from the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., has been in regular communication with this team, alerting them to opportunities to connect with legislators and equipping them with facts, information, and policies that can help them to communicate with their legislators well. Even during these months of the pandemic, in which many of us have been mostly at home, this team has been able to be in ministry with their neighbors, advocating for things they care about and that they desperately need. So if you're interested in learning more about getting involved in legislative advocacy, please contact us at the CMO. We periodically offer 101 type sessions on legislative advocacy, and we'd love to get you connected with the Advocates for Justice team. It'd be a great way for your voice as a Wesleyan Christian to be heard by those who are shaping the policies that shape our societies.
We're excited to share with you today about a partnership that we have developed with the North Texas Conference and the North Texas Red Cross. We're working with connecting groups of churches that might be able to be a part of a life-saving effort here in the spring of 2021, January through May. St. Stephen United Methodist Church and Dr. Jeffrey Moore, their pastor, were enlisted to help their congregation member who, as it turns out, runs the North Texas Blood Donation Program. And after COVID hit, St. Stephen was able to help with over 11 blood drives and gathering in over 400 units to meet the needs of Mesquite neighbors and those around the country. And they were able to meet many Mesquite neighbors that they had not met before and build those relationships, even during a time of social distancing. Since COVID has hit the Black community so hard, blood from those of African ancestry has been critically low. The blood supply in general remains critically low. But patients with sickle cell anemia need up to 100 units per year to survive the disease, and it's best treated with blood from those of African descent. Blood donations from those of African descent has been critically low, and the Red Cross reports that over 100,000 people of various racial and ethnic backgrounds are living with sickle cell anemia, primarily those of African and Latino ancestry. So there are blood types that are necessary for treating these particular diseases other than what we come to know as normal A, B, O, or AB blood types. The Red Cross is going to help us reach a goal of 2,000 units over this spring drive by offering $10 per unit up to $20,000 for a cause or organization of our choosing. And since we have United Methodist related ministries working in hard-hit South Dallas Fair Park, we're going to be sending those funds to Dallas Bethlehem Center and the Zan Wesley Holmes Community Outreach Center. This is a safe way for congregations to be able to volunteer and give back to their community, as well as reach new people. These churches that are participating can host a drive in their own larger space in a safe way. The Red Cross will make sure of that. Or a mobile unit can be sent to your location no matter where you are in North Texas. If you'd like to host a drive or interested in learning a little bit more please let us know, and you can contact me with the information provided.
In January of last year, the clergy of the North Texas Conference gathered for our annual Covenant Day. At this gathering, Bishop McKee shared his deep passion for racial equity and inclusion, and he introduced a new initiative called the Journey Toward Racial Justice. Through this initiative, Bishop McKee called us to live into our baptismal call as clergy and laity with a new and particular focus: to accept the freedom and power God gives us to resist the evil, injustice, and oppression of racism in whatever forms they present themselves. Since then, as we know, our country has experienced a fresh awakening to the painful and shameful realities of racism that continue to be all around us. And this journey toward racial justice now seems even more urgent and important. And thankfully, our scriptures also ground us and urge us forward in this work. In his letter to the Galatians, for example, Paul writes, "For in Christ Jesus you are all children of God through faith. As many of you as were baptized into Christ have been clothed with Christ. There is no longer Jew or Greek. There is no longer slave or free. There is no longer male or female, for all of you are one in Christ Jesus. And if you belong to Christ, then you are Abraham's offspring, heirs according to the promise." And in chapter 10 of the book of Acts, we read, "Then Peter began to speak to them. I truly understand that God shows no partiality, but in every nation, anyone who fears him and does what is right is acceptable to him. You know the message he sent to the people of Israel, preaching peace by Jesus Christ. He is Lord of all." The journey toward racial justice will be a long-term commitment and will be a multifaceted endeavor. It involves addressing remnants of racism that linger in our institution, building systems, policies, and practices that level the playing field for all people. It also involves churches doing transformational work to become anti-racist. Now, that term, anti-racist, may be new for some. Ibram Kendi, author of the seminal book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, clarifies the term in this way. He says, the opposite of racist isn't not racist. It is anti-racist. What's the difference? One endorses either the idea of a racial hierarchy as a racist or racial equality as an anti-racist. One either believes problems are rooted in groups of people as a racist or locates the roots of problems in power and policies as an anti-racist. One either allows racial inequities to persevere as a racist or confronts racial inequities as an anti-racist. He says, there is no in-between safe space of not racist. Therefore, one of the first programs to emerge this year in this Journey Toward Racial Justice initiative is a new process and set of resources that a local church can use to design their own unique and intentional journey toward racial justice and to learn how to be anti-racist disciples. Through this process that was developed by a diverse team of conference staff and North Texas Conference clergy, churches will be invited to build their own teams to design and champion this work in their context, to assess their congregations and their local community to understand where they are in relationship to race, and then to engage in learning opportunities that will transform hearts and minds. But that's not all. This journey will not be complete until the church turns their learning, their transformed hearts and minds, into action and discerns the right next faithful steps of racial justice activism and advocacy. This could look like inviting a person of color who's a leader in your community to speak about issues related to racial equity. It could involve committing to long-term financial support of an individual or an organization that is fighting for racial justice in your local community. Or it could look like establishing policies of racial equity for hiring for your own church staff and advocating for racial equality in leadership in your local community. Overall, the hope is that churches that participate in this journey will create disciples of Jesus Christ who are courageously anti-racist in our broken and hurting world, and who will be a part of creating an equitable future for the North Texas Conference and the communities that we serve. This spring, I'm so excited to share with you that 12 congregations from all 4 districts will be participating as pilots in this Congregational Journey Toward Racial Justice program. After annual conference in June, this Congregational Journey Toward Racial Justice opportunity will be opened up to any interested church in the North Texas Conference. And so if you and your church are excited about this idea and interested in getting started, please contact us at the CMO. We'd love to talk to you about things that you could do right now to begin your journey, or how you could begin preparing to start this Congregational Journey Toward Racial Justice after annual conference. Thanks for hanging with us to the end of this training. We hope that the ministry opportunities we've shared will help your church to be in ministry with your neighbors in creative, impactful ways in 2021. Remember, we're eager to be a resource to you and your churches. Our mission is to help local churches make disciples through ministry with your neighbors. So please don't hesitate to contact us. We'd love the opportunity to sit with you and your leadership team to think through how to apply ministry with values to the good work you're already doing, to have a conversation to connect you with people who could be rich resources or partners for the ministry that you hope to do, or to equip you with know-how, with avenues for advocacy, or with seed grants that can get you started on impacting your local communities. Thanks for your time and attention today and for investing in your leadership for 2021.